In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, the air shimmered with golden light and alien voices filled the chamber. Representatives from hundreds of star systems gathered, but only 3 voices mattered, the rulers of the 3 great galaxies. They were old, powerful, and united in one thing: their mockery of Earth. Humans were allowed to sit among them, but only at the far end of the chamber. Their chair was smaller, less polished, almost placed there as a joke. The humans present could feel the weight of every sneer, every smirk, every insult aimed at them. For the aliens, Earth was nothing more than a child playing with fire, too weak to survive in the cold void of the stars. One alien, tall and covered in crystal-like scales, rose and raised his voice. "The humans," he declared, his words carried across the hall by invisible translators, "still send ships powered by fuel that barely scratches light speed. They call them fleets, but to us they are toys. They cannot hold a single system. They cannot defend a single colony. Why then do they demand to be treated as equals?" Laughter erupted across the chamber. Deep, echoing laughs from creatures with 3 mouths. Hissing laughter from reptilian throats. Even the insectoid delegates clattered their mandibles in amusement. Another speaker, this one from the galaxy known as Vecreon, added his words. "When humans send their ambassadors, they wear suits of cloth. Cloth. Can you imagine? We dress in living armor, in biometal that can withstand the sun's fury. And these humans, they come wrapped like children." The room filled again with laughter. Some aliens even pounded their tables, their eyes glowing with amusement. The human delegation did not rise, did not speak. They sat quietly, their faces expressionless, but behind their stillness burned something the aliens could not see. A third voice, older and sharper, from the powerful empire of Calathos, rose next. 3 galaxies stand united, and yet this small blue world dares to request defense treaties, dares to ask for trade routes, dares to imagine it belongs in our star maps. Let me remind this council, Earth is not a power. It is a child's tale. We tolerate them as one tolerates an insect buzzing near the flame. They will burn soon enough. The chamber howled with laughter again. The words primitive and weak echoed off the golden walls. The phrase child race was whispered again and again as though mocking Earth's very existence. To the aliens, this was entertainment. To the humans, this was humiliation. But humiliation is a dangerous seed. It grows in silence, watered not by tears but by fury. Among the human delegation sat one man, Admiral Kane. He was old by Earth's standards, his hair grayed, his face lined from years of war and loss. He had fought in battles where human ships were torn apart by alien cruisers. He had seen colonies burned because no help came. And yet he sat still, silent, listening to the insults that poured like acid on his people. The aliens mistook silence for weakness. They always had. Admiral Kane's eyes moved slowly across the chamber. He studied the faces of the alien rulers, their arrogance painted in every smile, every mocking glance. He thought of the shipyards hidden in the shadows of dying stars where humanity's greatest secret was being forged. He thought of the dreadnoughts rising from molten steel, larger than any alien vessel, armed with weapons the Council had never dreamed of. His lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, but he hid it quickly. Not yet. The time had not come. The laughter in the chamber grew louder, echoing so hard that even the walls seemed to mock humanity. Reports of primitive humans were sent across the stars. News feeds across the 3 galaxies repeated the same joke. Earth was weak, Earth was foolish, Earth was unworthy of space. But not every alien laughed. In the corner of the chamber sat a silent observer, cloaked and faceless. Few knew his name, fewer knew his purpose, but he had studied humanity more than the rest. While the others mocked, he remembered the strange battles humans had fought, wars where they were outnumbered, outgunned, yet somehow survived. He remembered the stubborn fire in their eyes, the way they never surrendered even when the end seemed certain. He did not laugh. Instead, he whispered to himself, so softly no one could hear. They hide something. But his voice was lost in the storm of laughter. The council closed its session with a declaration. Humanity would remain on the lowest tier of recognition, unworthy of alliances, unworthy of respect. The aliens left the chamber with pride, their laughter still echoing down the crystalline halls. The humans rose last. They walked slowly, each step measured, their faces calm. But in their hearts, the fire grew stronger. For while the galaxies laughed, Earth remembered every word, and Earth was patient. Far from the council's golden halls in dark corners of space, titans of war were being born. Massive dreadnoughts, silent now, but waiting. Humanity's answer to mockery would not be words. It would be fire. And when that fire came, the laughter of 3 galaxies would turn into screams. Far from the glittering halls of the Galactic Council, humanity worked in silence. Their colonies looked ordinary to outsiders, mines unfrozen, moons farms under glass domes, factories spinning quietly in orbit. But hidden deep inside these shadows, something far greater was taking shape. In the dark orbit of a red dwarf star, where no alien scouts ever traveled, a shipyard stretched across space like a web of steel. Thousands of workers, engineers, and AI drones toiled in silence, welding massive frames that glowed like skeletons of giants. Each frame was a secret, a dreadnought waiting to be born. The galaxy called humanity primitive, but here, among fire and silence, primitive hands forged monsters of war. Admiral Kane stood inside one of these shipyards, gazing at the incomplete hull of a massive vessel. It was larger than any human ship ever built. Its dark armor plates shimmered with strange alloys, some stolen, some discovered in forgotten ruins, some forged from Earth's most secret research. This was not a toy. This was a weapon that would shake the stars. "Status report," Kane demanded, his voice low but sharp. A young engineer, her face pale with exhaustion, handed him a tablet. "Hull integrity at 92%. Plasma cannon installation underway. Reactor online within 3 cycles." Kane studied the report, then raised his eyes. Around him, men and women worked in silence, knowing the weight of their task. They were not only building ships, they were building vengeance. Above the shipyard floated another secret. A massive station disguised as a broken asteroid. On its surface, fake craters hid weapon turrets. Inside, it stored the fuel, the supplies, and the technology needed to keep the fleet hidden. To alien eyes, it was nothing but space debris. But to humans, it was the beating heart of a new war. On Earth, life appeared normal. Cities glowed at night. Children played in parks. Governments traded with alien merchants. To the galaxies watching, humanity looked harmless, distracted, even weak. That illusion was carefully maintained. Every insult at the council was accepted with silence. Every laugh was met with bowed heads. Humanity played the role of the fool, because behind the mask, they sharpened their blades. Scientists in underground labs tested weapons never seen before. Cannons that could punch through the shields of alien battleships, missiles that could track through warp space, energy beams that could melt a cruiser in seconds. These designs were dangerous, unstable, some even suicidal. But humans had never feared danger. They embraced it. One scientist, Dr. Alara Voss, stood before a weapon prototype that glowed with violent light. "If this works," she whispered to her team, "a single shot can cut a fleet in half. If it fails, we die testing it." Her assistant asked, voice trembling, "And if the council finds out?" Dr. Voss smiled grimly. "Then we are already dead. Better to die building fire than living as their slaves." Across the colonies, training centers prepared crews in secret. Pilots drilled in hidden asteroid bases. Soldiers trained in holographic battlefields. Commanders studied alien strategies, dissecting their weaknesses. Every lesson from centuries of defeat was turned into fuel for victory. The galaxies believed humanity was fractured, disorganized, too busy fighting among themselves. But in secret, Earth had done the impossible. They had united. Old rivalries between nations faded when, faced with alien laughter, Humans discovered something aliens never understood. Mockery did not break them. It forged them. And so the preparations continued. On the colony of Titan, deep under methane seas, workers constructed engines the size of mountains. On Mars, massive, cannons were hidden beneath the sand, ready to be mounted on dreadnought hulls. In the asteroid belt, factories disguised as abandoned mines forged endless ammunition. The aliens did not notice. They did not care to notice. Why would gods watch? Ants build tunnels? But the silent observer from the council, the one cloaked and faceless, had not forgotten his unease. His networks whispered of unusual human activity. He heard rumors of mining ships that carried strange metals never traded in markets. He saw shipping lanes vanish without reports. He even intercepted fragments of human transmissions, encrypted in ways no primitive species should know. They are hiding something, he repeated to himself. Something dangerous. Yet, when he brought his concerns to the council, they laughed again. Humans? Dangerous? You worry too much, they told him. They are children playing in the dark. But children grow, and children who are beaten and mocked learn to strike hardest. Back in the shipyard, the first dreadnought powered its engines. The sound was not a roar, but a deep vibration, felt in the bones of everyone present. Lights flickered as energy surged through its massive body. Admiral Kane placed his hand against the glass window, watching as the giant vessel came alive. It was only one ship, but one was enough to start the storm. Soon, Kane whispered, his voice heavy with promise. Soon the laughter will end. The workers around him paused, staring at the ship in awe. They could already feel it. The future was changing. Humanity had been mocked as primitive, but in silence they had prepared their answer. And when the answer came, it would not be in words. It would come as thunder. It would come as fire. It would come as the Dreadnought fleet. The three Galaxies had laughed too soon. The silence of preparation could not last forever. The Galaxies had mocked Earth for years, but their laughter soon turned into suspicion. Reports arrived of human ships vanishing from common trade routes, mining records that made no sense, and colonies that no longer opened their gates to alien inspectors. The council dismissed most of it as human incompetence, but not everyone was convinced. The Empire of Vecreon grew impatient. Their fleets had long guarded the outer colonies, and they were tired of human whispers of independence. To them, it was time to remind Earth of its place. And so, they sent a fleet. Not one or two ships, but an armada of hundreds. Cruisers, destroyers, and carriers filled the dark sky near the human colony of Carthos 9. When the first human patrol ship saw them, the pilot could only stare in silence. The alien fleet stretched across the horizon like a wall of steel. It was not a warning. It was an execution waiting to happen. Inside the colony, alarms screamed. Families fled into bunkers. Soldiers rushed to their stations, but everyone knew the truth. Humanity had no fleet large enough to match this armada. At least, that was what the Galaxies believed. From orbit, the Vecreon commander sent his message. His reptilian face appeared on every human screen, his voice cold and cruel. Humans, he hissed, your arrogance ends today. You dare to ask for equality, for recognition? You are nothing but parasites on the stars. We will burn your colonies and scatter your ashes. Learn your place or die. Panic spread across the colony. Many feared this was the end. But far away, hidden beyond a dying sun, a single dreadnought stirred. Its engines rumbled to life for the first time in battle. Its black hull gleamed like obsidian, covered in plates that shimmered with unearthly strength. This was Leviathan, the first of its kind, the first voice of humanity's vengeance. Admiral Kane stood on its bridge. His face was calm, but his heart thundered. Around him, officers waited, their hands tight on controls, their eyes locked on screens. For months, they had trained for this moment. For years, they had suffered in silence. Now the silence was over. Set. Course for Carthos 9, Kane ordered. His voice carried across the bridge like iron. Today we answer. The Leviathan emerged from the shadows like a god waking from slumber. The alien fleet detected it instantly, their scanners blaring, with alarms. But confusion struck first. This was no human cruiser, no fragile colony ship. Its size dwarfed their destroyers. Its power readings broke their instruments. It did not move like prey, it moved like a predator. On the Vecreon flagship, the commander hissed, "Impossible. They cannot build this." His scales flickered with unease. "Destroy it. Now!" The alien fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked across the void, lighting the sky with death. Explosions erupted around the Leviathan, but its shields held. The hull trembled, but it did not break. Instead, it pressed forward, slow and unstoppable, like a mountain sliding into the sea. "Target their lead cruiser," Kane commanded. The human gunners responded. Deep within the Dreadnought, the new plasma cannons roared to life. A single shot blazed across space like a burning star. It struck the Vecreon cruiser and tore it apart in one instant. Metal split, fire consumed, and the ship vanished in silence. Gasps filled the human bridge. The Leviathan had proven itself. On the alien side, chaos erupted. "What weapon is this?" commanders shouted. Ships turned, trying to regroup, but the Dreadnought fired again and another cruiser vanished into fire. The humans did not cheer. They did not shout. They fought in silence, every shot filled with years of anger. For every insult, for every lost colony, for every laugh that echoed in the council halls, the battle raged. Alien fighters swarmed, hundreds of small ships darting like wasps. The Leviathan's point defense systems lit up, beams of light sweeping them from the sky. Dozens fell in seconds. The Dreadnought did not slow. It cut through the alien armada like a knife through smoke. Inside the colony bunkers, humans watched, the battle on shaky screens. For the first time in generations, they saw something they had never dared to hope for. Aliens running. Aliens afraid. The Vecreon commander screamed orders, but fear spread faster than discipline. His fleet began to retreat, scattering into the stars. Some ships tried to cover the retreat, but the Dreadnought's guns shredded them. By the time the smoke cleared, half the armada was gone. The rest fled into the void, their arrogance shattered. "Admiral," Kane stood tall on the bridge, watching the fleeing ships. His officers looked to him, waiting for his words. "Send a message," he said at last. "To the Council. Tell them this. Humanity is no longer laughing with them. Humanity is speaking with fire." The words carried across channels, a thunderous declaration. In the distant halls of the Council, the news arrived like a storm. 3 galaxies heard of the battle. They heard that a single human dreadnought had destroyed an armada. They heard that the primitive race had unleashed something new, something terrifying. For the first time, the laughter stopped, and in that silence, fear began to grow. The destruction of the Vecreon armada sent shockwaves across the stars. For centuries, the 3 galaxies had ruled unchallenged, their fleets considered invincible. Yet now, whispers spread like wildfire. An entire armada had been crushed by a single human warship. At first, the Council dismissed the reports as exaggeration, lies spun by frightened soldiers. But then came the images. Wreckage drifting in orbit, shattered cruisers, the burned symbols of Vecreon pride floating lifeless in the void. The laughter was gone. In its place came silence, followed by anger. The rulers of the 3 galaxies gathered, again. Their voices were sharp, their pride wounded. "It was only one ship," declared the Calithos leader, his 4 eyes glowing with fury. "One ship does not make them strong. They cannot build more." But deep inside, even he doubted his words. He had seen the recordings. He had watched the Leviathan tear through ships like paper. One ship was dangerous enough. But what if there were more? And there were more. In hidden shipyards across the stars, other dreadnoughts awakened. The Titan's Fist, the Eternal Flame, the Iron Vow. Each one larger, stronger, deadlier than the last. They rose from the shadows like giants, their armor black as night, their cannons glowing with the promise of war. Human crews boarded them in silence, their faces grim, their hearts burning with purpose. They were not driven by conquest or greed. They were driven by memory. They remembered the laughter, the humiliation, the endless insults that painted them as weak. Now, those memories became fuel. When the next alien fleet came, larger, deadlier, drawn from all 3 galaxies, they did not face one dreadnought. They faced 5. The battle began in the Vega Corridor, a stretch of space long used as a trade route. Alien fleets gathered there, confident in their numbers. Hundreds of warships formed walls of steel and fire, their commanders certain that humanity's resistance would end here. They would crush the humans publicly, make them a lesson for every other species. But the dreadnoughts arrived like storms. The Leviathan led the charge, its black hull glowing in the light of battle. Behind it, the Titan's fist unleashed a cannon, blast that split a battleship in 2. The eternal flame fired its railguns, piercing through enemy shields with brutal precision. The sky itself seemed to burn as human firepower rained down. Alien commanders screamed orders, but it was useless. Their tactics, which had worked for centuries, meant nothing against the sheer power of the dreadnoughts. Every formation shattered. Every line broke. Fleets scattered in chaos as human weapons cut through them with terrifying ease. The humans did not fight with arrogance. They fought with cold, patient fury. Every maneuver was precise, every strike calculated. Admiral Kane commanded the fleet with iron control, his voice steady even as galaxies trembled. "Do not waste. Fire," he ordered. "Every shot must count. Show them discipline. Show them what it means to call us primitive." And the dreadnoughts obeyed. In the colony worlds watching from afar, humans cheered. For the first time they felt pride without fear. For the first time they saw their ships not fleeing but hunting. Mothers who had buried sons from alien raids wept as they saw the dreadnought fleet tear apart the empires that once mocked them. Children pressed their hands to screens, whispering, "That's us. That's humanity." But among the alien worlds, terror spread like wildfire. News broadcasts spoke of human ships that no weapon could stop, fleets that moved like predators, striking and vanishing, always returning stronger. Traders whispered that even black holes were not as feared as the human dreadnoughts. The Council grew desperate. They sent envoys demanding negotiations, but Earth ignored them. They offered threats promising extermination, but humanity did not reply. Silence was their answer. Silence and the growing shadow of steel warships. The 3 galaxies soon realized the truth. They were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. Entire systems that once laughed at humans now fell silent when the dreadnought fleet appeared in orbit. Alien governors surrendered without a fight, terrified of becoming the next example. Some begged for mercy. Others tried to fight and were erased in moments. And through it all, Admiral Kane remained steady. He did not seek to destroy for pleasure. He sought to make the galaxies understand. Every strike was a reminder, every victory a warning. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not primitive. Humanity was wrath. In one famous battle above the world of Thalkor, 3 alien fleets joined together, desperate to reclaim their honor. They surrounded the humans, confident that this time numbers would prevail. But the dreadnoughts turned, their trap into a graveyard. The Iron Vow released a weapon never before seen, a superheated beam that carved through enemy cruisers as though they were glass. The Eternal Flame detonated an energy pulse that disabled shields across an entire formation. And the Leviathan, the firstborn of the fleet, tore apart the enemy flagship with a single devastating strike. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, silence fell across the galaxies once more. But this silence was different. It was not the silence of arrogance. It was the silence of fear. Every alien ruler knew what it meant. Humanity was no longer asking for recognition. Humanity was no longer sitting in the back of the council chambers. Humanity was standing above them, dreadnoughts in orbit, fire at their command. The wrath of the dreadnought fleet had arrived, and nothing in the 3 galaxies would ever be the same again. The wars ended not with a final battle, but with silence. For months, humanity's dreadnought fleet had swept across the stars. Every system they entered fell. Some surrendered before. The first cannon fired, others resisted and were erased in moments. The three galaxies, once proud and unchallenged, had been brought to their knees. Entire empires now spoke in whispers when they spoke of Earth. The council chamber, once filled with laughter, was now heavy with fear. The rulers of the three galaxies gathered again, but their voices no longer carried pride. Their words trembled, with unease. They remembered the recordings, entire fleets turned to ash, flagships destroyed by a single strike, colonies begging for mercy. One elder from Calathos broke the silence. We mocked them. We thought them weak. But now they sit above us. His four eyes dimmed with dread. What are they? No one answered. Outside their windows, the sky glowed with a terrifying reminder. Above the capital world of the Council floated humanity's dreadnought fleet, black giants of steel motionless in orbit, their weapons silent but ready. They did not fire. They did not speak. They simply hung there, a shadow over the galaxy, a silent promise of destruction. The Council knew the truth. Humanity no longer needed to demand respect. Respect had been taken. Inside the Leviathan, Admiral Kane stood at the observation deck. Below him stretched the Council world, a glittering jewel of towers and oceans. Once, humans had been forced to walk its halls in silence, mocked and belittled. Now those same halls quaked with terror. Kane's face was calm, his hands clasped behind his back. He had not come to destroy. He had come to remind. Transmit message, he ordered. Across the Council, every screen lit with Kane's face. His voice, low and steady, filled every chamber, every corridor, every home. Years ago you called us primitive, you laughed at us, you treated humanity as children, as insects, as fools. You thought silence was weakness. You thought patience was fear. You were wrong. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Millions watched in silence. We are not primitive. We are not weak. We are not your servants. We are humanity. We are the storm you mocked, the fire you ignored, the fury you thought could never rise. And now, you understand. No threats followed. No demands. The message ended there. But it was enough. In the council chamber, no one spoke. For the first time in recorded history, the rulers of the three galaxies lowered their heads, not in laughter, not in mockery, in submission. Word spread across the stars like lightning. On alien worlds, children who once laughed at human toys now whispered the name Dreadnought in fear. Soldiers who had mocked Earth's armies now trembled when they saw the human fleet. Merchants who once refused human trade now begged for their goods. The balance of power had shifted forever, but humanity did not conquer planets. They did not enslave. They did not burn worlds for pleasure. They did something far more terrifying. They waited. The dreadnought fleet remained in orbit, silent and watchful, a reminder of what lay beneath Earth's calm face. Humanity spoke only when needed. They took nothing by force, but no one dared deny them again. Every agreement, every treaty, every alliance was now written with human approval. The galaxies learned quickly, better to respect the humans than to test their fury. In taverns across alien space, whispers grew. The humans never asked for power. They never asked for fear. They earned it. Others whispered something darker. What else are they hiding? Admiral Kane stood alone in his quarters aboard the Leviathan, staring at a star map glowing with shifting colors. Red markers, once symbols of enemy fleets, were slowly vanishing. The galaxy was quiet now. Too quiet. He knew the silence was fragile. But he also knew one truth. Humanity had carved its place into the stars, and no one could take it away. A young officer entered. "Sir," she said softly, "the Council has sent another message. They want to meet. They request Terms, Kane nodded. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. His eyes were hard as steel. Let them come, he said. But remind them, we are not equals by their choice. We are equals because we chose to rise. The officer saluted and left. Kane turned back to the star map, his voice barely above, a whisper. We were patient, he said. We were silent. Now the galaxies will never forget. And so, the 3 galaxies fell into a new age. An age where humanity no longer stood in the shadows. An age where every laugh, every insult, every mockery had been erased by fire. The galaxies would never laugh again. For when they looked to the skies, they no longer saw weakness. They saw dreadnoughts. They saw humanity, and they stayed silent.